Okay, let's go again. Um, the second and third parameters is the locations and the feature ID keys. Um, the feature ID keys is set the keys in GeoJS only features which is used as ID to match the items included in the location arrow. Support nested property. For example, property's name and the location is set which features found in JSON to plot using their feature ID field. And then to say the location is something is in your data fields, and the feature ID keys is something in your map fields. And they need to be same, and then the computer, the patterns can match them and regard it as a bridge to build the relationship between the data field and the map field. And the first map I show, we can find it's nothing. That is to say the bridge is not established. So I start to find the reasons. At the first time, I think, oh, the locations I use is the def1 fips, things like this, and the feature ID keys. If you don't write it, and at default, it is the ID, is a string ID, just ID. But I also write it here. And we can find the ID in my map fields is here. It's also FIPS. At first time I check my data, the FIPS columns, I find the last row is always not a number, so I delete it by this. And then I try again. And also nothing. So I think is the problem is this one. It only have 4 numbers, but in our map fields, there is a 0 at the beginning. And there also the map field also doesn't have the dot 0. So the first time I convert the def2 fips to float, and then change them to int to delete the dot 0. Why I can't use the second command at first is because you can't int the strings like that. You can't int them directly. You need to convert them to float at first, and then int them, and convert them to string again, and then you can find the dot 0 disappears. And then I use the defill functions to add the 0 before the numbers which have only 4 numbers. That is to say that it should have 5 numbers. If it doesn't have, if it less than 5 numbers, it will add 0 at the beginning automatically. And if I conduct it, you can find I make it. It's same as the data in my map fields. So I tried again, and I make it like this. Uh, Although the bridge is established, but you can find it pretty ugly. And the color scales is strange. So I need to make it better. We need these parameters, the color scale. And the first time I use the greens. It's an existing color scale template. And if you wait for a minute, okay, it's like this. It's also pretty strange. At the first time, I didn't use the parameters of color scale. At that time, the auto color scale is true. If the parameters determines whether color scale is a default palette or the palette determined by color scales. So after I use the color scales, this one should be false, but you don't need to write it. The color scale, you can use some existing color styles like this. I tried all of them. I find all of them are ugly, and I found the reason. That's because at the 4020 on these days the increased numbers data has a pretty huge variance. That is to say, most data are located at this range. Only a few at this range. So I need to change the color scales in a way I defined. At first, I use this one. It could be a list, and each element is a how to say that, is point like this, 5k, 5,000, 10,000, and I define them, and you can manage colors, color style. I use a RGB. And there are also others you can use. I want to divide the colors based on the quantiles of the date. So I use 0.25 the mean, and 0.75 and the max to divide the date. And I tried them, but it's also strange. And I find the logic of the computer is, at first it will find the minimum data and the maximum data, which is 0 and 3, 30,000, 67,7, and then it just the 0, 25%, 50%, 75% is based on this one, but not the data. So I have to calculate it myself. I calculate the data quantities and divided this one. But I'm lazy, so I just use 30,000, and I use the result as here, and I try them again. And also this time I changed my Mapbox style to the color dark matters, which I would like to use, and you can find it works. next, I use some other parameters. In fact, this is automatically, but also you can define it. Use the day min and the day max to determine which scale you want to show. And this is the marker opacity and marker line wise. You can compare the two pictures. You can find the differences. This one is the border is more smooth. That's because the marker opacity and the width of marker line. Yeah, this is the major body I want to introduce today. And there are various parameters you can find in these functions. It's pretty interesting. Just like you can find when I put my my mouse here. The first number 337 is the increased numbers, and the second number is the FIPS, and you can control them. Hover. Oh. Oh, here. Like this. And the skip is cancel this function. Then need to see when you put here, there is nothing. And of course, you can add something on this